So I have a question for everyone. Why are whites so scared of the word racism? I was watching this video by Molyneux, and my gosh, he was so dodging the bullet with denials and jokes and just trying to wash himself from that word, when the history of mankind is just filled with atrocities by colonial empires for 1,000 years, maybe 2,000 years. Isn't it true that the Roman Empire had invaded the Middle East during the time of Jesus? And are not the Romans part of the current European civilization of Italy and Rome? And over 2,000 years ago, they were colonizing the Middle East. Is that not true? Absolutely, it is true. Even as recent as World Wars I, World Wars II. And what about the slavery trade? All of that came about from Portugal, Spain, England. Of course, we know about slavery in America. And you have guys like Molyneux completely trying to deny that any differences between the races should just be ignored. Well, you have your difference and I have my difference, and we'll just agree to disagree, and nobody has to call me a white racist because I'm Molyneux and I'm not a racist. And by the way, when you call me a racist, that endangers me and my family, and we're afraid of potential violence. But does he even go back to just the 1950s and the 1960s and look at the March of Selma and the fight for equality and equal rights and equal voting rights and all that? It's funny how these people seem to conveniently forget the past, when the past is now pointing the finger at them. Oh, now they're innocent. Oh, I'm not a racist. I'm a good guy. My name is Molyneux. You cannot point the finger at me. I've never done anything racial to you, and neither has my race. We've never done anything racist in thousands and thousands of years of history. But it's funny how the historical record proves them wrong. And now they are scattering like rats, that somebody has just uncovered the rat nest, and they are just scattering everywhere, afraid of the label that they themselves created when they started distinguishing between one race and another. Like in World War II, they were distinguishing and making distinctions, but now that the fingers are pointing back at them, well, now they're scattering like rats. It is quite funny how some groups become very triggered when the fingers are pointed back at them. Look at, for example, the Chinese when they were building the railroads in San Francisco and Northern California, and building railroads all along the western states, using Chinese, basically slave labor, to lay down the railroad tracks. And the white railroad owners were paying them just a pittance, and trying to pay them with opium and fentanyl, drugs and things. And many of these people would live down in the train tunnels and smoke their opium. But now suddenly in 2021, instead of 1875, now suddenly in 2021, these great grandchildren of their great grandfathers the great-grandchildren are now saying, why are you picking on me? I'm not responsible for slave trades by the Portuguese. I'm not responsible for the invasion of the South Pacific islands of Magellan's voyages and all that. I'm not the one responsible for Columbus. I'm not part of one of the Spaniard conquistadors that enslaved 3/4 of the world during the Spanish conquests. I'm not part of those groups that enslaved the American Indians in the Southwest and put them into reservations and gave them alcohol and smallpox infected blankets. I'm not part of those groups that went around the world and committed genocides. I'm not part of the group that forced other religions and races into ghettos. Why are you picking on me? Those were my great-great-grandfathers that did that. But I don't practice or participate in those practices today. I'm totally innocent. Why are you labeling me as a racist? Well, it's because of a little thing called the chickens are coming home to roost. You know, and after you pick on other people for literally thousands and thousands of years, you take them out of their homelands. You separate them from their families, from their wives and their children, and you force them into either slave labor or labor that is so cheap, even though it's paid. But the labor you're getting for the amount of payment you're getting is just like slavery, paying people pennies a day to do your work under the threat of violence, and you're threatening other people's great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers. Well, guess what? Those chickens start coming home to roost. And then when these chickens start crowing, oh, now we've got a problem on our hands. Look at this. It's the great-grandchildren are complaining about how they're being treated and how their grandmas were being treated and how their great-grandmas were being treated and their great-great-great-great-great-grandpas were being treated. Putting them in shackles and irons and chains and getting whipped. Look at that. Now they're getting mad because they've studied history and they don't like the fact that one person's great-great-great-grandfather was mean to someone else's great-great-great-grandfather. And now there's some anger stirring and people want to have discussion. People want to have talks. And certain children of certain great-grandfathers, they don't want to talk about it. They just want to say, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, blah, blah, blah. I'm putting my fingers in my ears and I don't want to talk about it. And I don't want you to label me and I don't want to talk about it. And I'm starting to feel shamed and I'm starting to feel scared because there's more of you than there are of us. And I'm really getting worried here because you guys look pretty big and I'm pretty scrawny. And what am I going to do? I'm pretty scared. And that's what's going on with Stephen Molyneux nowadays. Just feels the fear, feels the heat, refuses to sympathize, totally refuses to sympathize, refuses to apologize, stays in denial, remains in firm denial, drew a line in the sand and said, I'm not gonna apologize past this line. I'm a denier and I'm not gonna move from my spot. Even though you're scaring me, I'm not gonna move from my spot. And that's just pathetic. I cannot understand how people listen to this man. I cannot understand how people take advice from this man. He really shouldn't even be listened to, put on a stage, given a microphone, put in front of a camera. You know, thank God for cancel culture. Thank God for cancel culture.